Composers. The definition of a composer is a person who writes music. There are tons of famous composers, but before we look at some of these great composers, let's take a look at the history of how composing music all started. The first signs of music notes, which were written on stone, were found around the year 2000 BC. That's over 4,000 years ago.
Wow!
As time went, there were different ways of writing music notes, but during the Renaissance period in Europe, the 14th to 17th century, modern music writing was starting to develop. After the Renaissance period, we have the Baroque period, which was 1600 to 1750. During this time, the famous composer Johann Sebastian Bach wrote tons of music. Here is an original piece of music handwritten by Bach. Pretty cool. Some of Bach's works include two-part inventions, which were originally for the harpsichord, but now we play them on the piano. This famous piece by Bach called Toccata is for the large instrument usually found in a church called the organ. In 1750 to 1820, called the Classical period, we meet other great composers like Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and Ludwig van Beethoven. Ooh. Beethoven the dog? No, not Beethoven the dog. Beethoven the composer.
Oops.
So, yes, Beethoven the composer. He wrote many wonderful pieces, including his Fifth Symphony, and Ode to Joy. When Beethoven would sit down to write music, he was known for coming up with ideas, then scratching them out, and rewriting the music, coming up with many revisions of his work. Later in Beethoven's life, he became deaf, meaning that he could no longer hear anything, which was very frustrating for him since now he couldn't even hear the music that he had been writing. He would hear the music in his head and write it down for other people to perform and listen to. Another brilliant composer in the classical period was Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Mozart was a child prodigy, which meant that he was really good musician at an early age. He was writing music at the age of 5. Mozart wrote a variety of compositions, including operas, symphonies, which are performed by an orchestra, piano concertos, which is when you have a piano and orchestra playing together. His most famous piece of music is called Eine kleine Nachtmusik, which means a little night music. Let's review. A composer is someone who writes music. There are many composers we'll learn about, but some of our most famous composers include Bach, Beethoven, and Mozart. It's now your turn to be a composer.